Yes, so that-
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on this 61st episode of Startup Talks. I'm grateful to Raheel Bodla, who's become an interesting and a good friend over the past couple of weeks. I'm grateful that he's joined us today. Very anxiously looking forward to this conversation because he's had an interesting journey, both academically and career wise. It's as much interesting as much it may be a reason of envy to quite a few people. It is for me actually because because he's been through some really interesting places through Hassan Abdal, through Nust being an aerospace engineer, sorry, and through McGill and Harvard and MIT as well. Plus, on the career side, he has been through uh, the most interesting part of that is through Pakistan Air Force. And when he left, he was the squadron leader. Plus, he's part of Tesla as well, looking after global supply chain. And he's also a success coach. Assalamu alaikum, Rahil. Thank you very much for being here, my brother.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you very much, Tamur, for having me here. It's really such a great honor, and I'm humbled to be part of this Startup Talks. So I've been following Startup Talks. So let me begin with saying how amazing work that and your Startup Talks team is doing. It's creating a lot of value for the startup founders globally, and that's what people see. That's what we all are here for. So I want to congratulate to begin with that this is amazing that you're doing for the startup ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you for your kind words. राहिल तो शुरू करते हैं starting with beyond Hassan Abdal, right? What was early life like?
So early life was very interesting. So my father and mother, they both are educationists,
Mm-hmm.
and we grew up, like I would say, until I was 11 years old, in a very small town that is Shojabad district, Multan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the dreams start with our parents, the way the parents put their seed in the mind of the kids that okay. So I would say there's no something extraordinary that I did,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it was the dream of my father to
Mm-hmm.
send all three of us in cadet colleges. We are three brothers, no sister. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what my elder brother, who's a doctor in Alabama in the U.S. So
Mm-hmm.
he went to Hassan Abdal Cadet College. So similarly, I followed him, and the younger one, he went to cadet college in PF College, Sargodha as well.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's how things started for father putting that vision that, okay, you have to be in one of the top schools of the country.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know anything.
So that's great. So how was Hassan Abdal like? My father also
The
wanted me to go there actually, right? He tried. He's my father also. He's seen the world. I mean, traveled many countries, filled maybe over 35 passports by now, right?
Wow.
His passion was just two things. One, either to get into a cadet college, right? He tried for Pitaro. He tried for Hassan Abdal, but maybe I wasn't the kind of like a studious kind of person back then, right? But how was life like in Hassan Abdal then?
I think life in cadet college Hassan Abdal was during those formative years. It was the lot of early foundational learning started from there, where I understood the value of teamwork,
Mm-hmm.
helping others, like getting help from others too.
Yeah.
Like I think I was one of the youngest one in my whole entry, which is like they select 100 cadets
Yeah.
out of maybe more than 10,000 students apply. Like it's very competitive.
Yeah.
So being competitive is something that I learned because as I found that I was youngest and we are running like cross country, doing athletics and so many other things and academics, trying to balance all that.
Yeah.
So that's what I looked up to others and learned from them and helped them. So I would say more like leadership and teamwork. These are some of the things that really stood out
Mm-hmm.
and helped. And that helped in actually in the later part, which is being in Pakistan Air Force Academy.
Yeah.
because the first cadetship in Hassan Abdal Cadet College helped in the second one, which I could do really amazingly well.
But so, because life at the cadet school is absolutely different from what civilian life, as we can maybe may call it. I mean, it's totally different. What do you think? I mean, what you are today, or what you have achieved all through life, right? Being through so many interesting institutions, so many interesting companies as well. Did cadet life have a big role to play in that?
Yes, absolutely. I would say so because of finding that helping each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been helping a lot of people, but I absolutely where I am today, it is because of help of a lot of amazing folks. Like the way we help each other in community, that
Mm-hmm.
defines our success. No one person alone can do anything, and
Of
I
course.
think that humility is the mother of all virtues.
Mm-hmm.
Like being humble and and putting your value, something like Tamur that you were talking about, like how you add value to the other startups.
Mm-hmm.
Adding value to others, once we add that value to others, then
Yeah.
it's more like a pull strategy. We don't
Yeah.
have to push ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
then people are attracted to us like automatically,
Mm-hmm.
and things go up, and we are helping each other. So that's what I learned, and absolutely it played a very important part in the early years.
Sure, that's great. Acha, then you moved on to NUST, right? Fine institution, especially for people working in the engineering space, and even the present trend of technology and computer science, right? It's a leading place. NUST actually has quite a strong following and a strong alumni association as well in the US and Europe too. Apart from GIK and another big name, NED from Karachi, right? They've produced some really interesting talents. A lot of people from there have done some amazing stuff, build amazing businesses. So, NUST से progression into Pakistan Air Force, right? You spent quite a bit of time in the Air Force. When you left, finished off from there, you were a squadron leader, right? So, how was life there? I mean, I mean, being part of any kind of forces, whether it is the Air Force or armed forces or naval forces. I mean, that is the most exciting time. I really, I mean, I'm after my son as well sometimes कि यार तुम यार इसमें चले जाओ यार ये देखो यार ये ड्रामा देखो यार ये अल्फा ब्रावो चार्ली देखो यार क्या लाइफ है इन लोगों की तो हाउ वाज योर लाइफ देयर
It was very interesting, actually. So PF College of Aeronautical Engineering, it is in Pakistan Air Force Academy in Risalpur,
yeah
and the degree is from NUST. So it's a military institution in which we went through a complete military training
mm-hmm,
along with aeronautical engineering, which is like aerospace engineering,
mm-hmm,
and creatively that's part of NUST too.
yeah
So very lucky for being there.
mm-hmm,
In terms of that, the aerospace engineering and balancing that with really rigorous military training,
yeah
I think that was something was quite a challenge.
mm-hmm,
I initially spent 2 weeks in UET Lahore
mm-hmm,
as I completed my FSC, got some good marks there, and so while I was for 2 weeks in UET Lahore, in the meanwhile I got the offer letter from College of Aeronautical Engineering, and I went ahead with
mm-hmm,
that NUST CAE College of Aeronautical Engineering.
mm-hmm,
It was very interesting, and completing that in in CAE, which is College of Aeronautical Engineering, we used to have four different types of cadets.
mm-hmm,
One was aviation cadet, like as I was part of Pakistan Air Force, and
mm-hmm,
after completing, I was supposed to be working in the Air Force.
mm-hmm,
Second, like there are some aviation cadets who are Army aviation cadets, gentlemen cadets, and they complete and go to Army aviation. The
mm-hmm,
third one, there were some paying cadets as well that after completing the engineering, they were open, they could go anywhere, they were not bound to serve the military. and the fourth one like PIA cadets as well. So
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan International Airlines, they have their cadets there too. So along with all of that mix,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then after completing that, the engineering part, I worked as a flight engineer of Mirage aircrafts
Mm-hmm.
in Rafiki Air Base in Shorecourt, which is the third biggest air base in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite interesting. The rest of the time that I spent in Chaklala Air Base in Rawalpindi in Islamabad.
Mm-hmm.
So both those tenures were very interesting for me, and I could learn a lot from other people and help them too. So that's how it started the 10 years of serving in Pakistan Air Force as a squad lead.
Uh-huh. So your interest in supply chain management, did it
Yes.
were the seeds sown at PAF then?
Absolutely, you're right. Because one of the interesting job that I was doing while being part of Pakistan Air Force was that I was a 2IC of like second in command of a small unit, engineering depot. And as a production control officer, what I was doing was operations management.
Mm-hmm.
So before that, I did not have a clue of like what this specifically this would be called. Like I was very passionate to study in some of the good schools, but it did not have an idea that what I'm doing as
Mm-hmm.
a production control officer, this is basically operations management that I'm doing. I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing some planning, I'm doing some production, and
Mm-hmm.
there's an operation part of it.
Yeah.
And we were working on ground equipment, and we were working and like planning. It was very interesting. So that's how the operations management background started, and that transformed into logistics and supply chain management. So absolutely, you're right.
Okay. So then you moved on to some really interesting places to study as well. McGill, Harvard, MIT. So इतनी ज़्यादा खिचड़ी बन के बना क्या राहिल का फिर? मतलब क्या राहिल इतनी
Right.
सारी जगहों से निकल के राहिल क्या बन गया?
Right. Thank you very much for asking because that's very interesting. So
हाँ.
at that time, I was at the crossroads. I was transitioning out of Pakistan Air Force, and I
Mhm.
had three options.
Okay.
One of them, I had the Fulbright scholarship. I had won the Fulbright scholarship, but I did not avail that because I knew that all my family by that time was in US. My elder brother, as well as my younger brother, my
Mhm.
parents were on green card as well.
Mhm.
So I knew that if I took that option of Fulbright scholarship on J1 visa binding, then
Yeah.
after completing my master's, I will be required to go back to Pakistan, and with my family and overall situation, that might not be the best option. That
Yeah.
was one option. The second one was that I was studying with Harvard University Extension School,
Mhm.
and these are not short courses. This is a complete master's degree program.
Okay.
So for 1.5 years, I used to be up in the nights,
Mhm.
and while 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. in Islamabad, it used to be 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. in Boston.
Okay.
In real time, I used to attend classes, do projects with my class, who was in Harvard at
Mhm.
that time with Boston. And the program required that after you complete that part, like physically, you have to be for summer school in Boston. That
Mhm.
I actually did complete while I was in MIT. So that's how like everything started. And the third option was with McGill. I
Mhm.
had the top scholarship of the university, like having a because of having 97 percentile on GRE. So out of all the three options,
Mhm.
moving on, took the McGill option. We went to Montreal in Canada from Islamabad. And after Montreal, it was Toronto and then Boston.
Mhm.
Then the dream, I think for MIT, it
Mhm.
took me 5 years, Tamur,
Okay.
to get into that program, which is very competitive. They
Yeah.
select 40 professionals from all around the world
Mhm.
and like working on everything. Like there's no shortcut.
Yeah.
Working at least 6 months working on the GRE,
Mhm.
working on the essays, the other part. I
Yeah.
used to look at the resume book of MIT, and
Mhm.
I used to find a lot of gaps. So
Mhm.
that happened over and over for 5 years. Like I used to look at, okay, these are all the people in this MIT program. I don't have this. Let me complete this certification. Let me do Six Sigma black belt. Let me do like an American Society of Quality. Let me do project manager. Like all those different kind of things. That's what I would love to share with the startup founders as well. That once we see a gap, like
Mhm.
some of the startups are doing really amazing, and the
Yeah.
other startup founder, if I have some gaps, let me work on that long term path and fill the gaps. That is, and then one day I would belong there, and we have an opportunity to become one of those. So that's what it happened in a long journey.
Uh, from this comment of yours, I picked up two interesting things. Right. First of all, it's great that you actually love doing things. I mean, you've got a very proactive approach to doing lots of things. कि यार ये भी कर लो, ये भी कर लो, ये भी कर लो, ये भी फायदा देगी, ये भी qualification है. You should get hold of this as well. The second thing, जो the current trend, which actually accelerated during the pandemic, use of technology, like we are communicating using this technology right now, right? And remote work and all that. You actually experienced uh, that kind of an environment quite long, couple of years, few years before the world actually got used to it. राइट. तो
Yes.
उस वक्त अजीब सा नहीं लगता था कि यार मैं यहाँ बैठा हुआ हूँ इस्लामाबाद में, यूएस में क्लास ले रहा हूँ?
Yes. And it was very interesting, Tamur. Thank you for asking that, because some of the projects were really tough for me. And like I secluded myself from my friends. I think that they gave that leverage as well, that okay, right now, Raheel, you're working on something really amazing, focus. Um, and I used to write emails to my professors, to the other students. That I am one of the student. I'm still in Islamabad. Like in terms of I have not been on Harvard summer school and being on campus with you. But these are all the things that I'm trying to understand. Could you please help me? Could you match me with other students so we can do projects together? These are some of the areas. And so literally, I attended all of the office hours, who very well connected with the teaching assistants, and and I think that you're right, like 2010 and 2011 being on that similar virtual work, that
Yeah.
helped me to open a lot of doors for me, that this is the way to work, and being virtual, that's how we can connect globally with anyone and do really amazing work.
Mhm. Interestingly, the same thing that you did, right, with your remote classes and stuff.
Yes.
My younger brother, I mean, my sister-in-law actually, so she was also a Fulbright scholar, right?
Wow.
And
Awesome.
my brother, he had scholarship from the university. वो दोनों जो है ना, वो पढ़ने के जो है ना, वो थोड़े से ज़रा अभी भी पढ़ रहे हैं वो, right?
Yes.
So there in the US, my brother is actually an assistant professor in Albany, right?
Awesome.
So his wife, she actually took time off for a semester, but she did attend those classes
Yes.
back then. So the first time I saw people taking remote classes was with her, right? But the interesting thing about that is, looking at her and looking at hearing from you what you've been doing, something that I also advocate to a lot of people, कि भाई the when वो जो कहते हैं ना, एक पुराना ऐसा एक proverb है कि where there is a will there is a way, right? It actually
Yes.
applies in every context, in every walk of life, कि आप जब कुछ
Absolutely.
करना चाहते हैं, राइट, देयर इज
Yes.
नो स्टॉपिंग. आई मीन मैं आपसे कम्युनिकेट करना चाह रहा हूँ, आपके यहाँ जो है वो रात में 12 बज रहे हैं, 1 बज रहा है, मेरे यहाँ जो है वो दिन में बज रहे हैं, मैं रोज़े से हूँ, आप रोज़े
Yes.
से नहीं, बट वी वांट टू हैव दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन एंड वी आर हैविंग इट, राइट?
Absolutely.
Same thing, you want to achieve something, whether it's academically, career wise, if you want to do something, if there's a will, there's a drive there, then there's no stopping. कोई ना कोई solution कहीं ना कहीं से निकल ही आता है, right? Which is
Exactly.
actually
You're
very
right.
amazing. So,
Awesome.
Rahil, coming on to your career, bro, you went on to Tesla. क्या इलॉन शिलॉन पाकिस्तान में ला रहे हैं अपना सैटेलाइट इंटरनेट नहीं ला
Right. We had been trying to actually, I'd been in touch with some of the officers in our consulate, Pakistan consulate at Los Angeles. We'd been
रहे
trying to make some
हैं?
conversation with like how soon Tesla could get started in Pakistan, and if that happens, like that would be more like a dream come true.
Yeah.
So interestingly, how MIT is partnered with Tesla. So I was applying everywhere for job placements, and this was the first job that I had in US, being on F1 visa, which is a student visa with a lot of bindings and all that. So I would say that I'm very thankful and lucky. to be because of the school placement, school being a partner with Tesla. That's how I got that opportunity to lead the Model X assembly line for $250 million. I
Mm-hmm.
saved $11 million for the company in those 2 years
Okay.
while leading the Model X assembly line.
Mm-hmm.
And then, luckily, then that's how I transitioned to a supplier company, like a startup company,
Mm-hmm.
and I was doing sales for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I could grow that company from $4 million to $16 million. So
Okay.
that's how the 5 years of experience in Tesla factory.
Mm-hmm.
That's what helped me
Mm-hmm.
to do what I'm currently doing, like helping businesses and startups and grow them in sales and the other areas. So I think that 5 year experience at Tesla helped me really to do and explore that passion.
Chale. Acha, s- coming on to being a success coach, I mean, right, to have such a strong background in doing things, right, whether it's Ivy League institutions or the Air Force or NAST or being part of the armed forces. Um, how is being as being all that experience how has it shaped you as a success coach? I mean, what kind of impact would is being a success coach helping startups and founders?
Uh, Thank you. I would say that it is more like, for me, it's like living the dream. So
Mm-hmm.
actually, the dream started here. At that time, I happened to be one of the early PMP, which is Project Management Professional Certified
Mm-hmm.
in the country. And then
Mm-hmm.
I started training and coaching other people.
Mm-hmm.
And some of my friends, they shared with me that, Raheel, you do it really amazing. Like once you're coaching, once you're training, you're helping us. So at that time, I explored that passion of mine that, okay, this journey of last 20 years has been a journey of coaching, and it really gives me the fulfillment, the happiness that I'm looking for. So
Mm-hmm.
that it started, the dream started here.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that if two more things I could do, one is like study at some of the good schools,
Mm-hmm.
and then if I have an opportunity to work at some of the global companies where I can learn the business management as I'm doing, then I would be able to take this to a global level. So I think that that's how this journey helped in in shaping up the dream that I had of becoming a success coach, and everything that I learned along the journey
Mm-hmm.
that helps me. It could be something that I picked up maybe at very early years in my childhood,
Yeah.
maybe in the boarding school, or even working at with some company, or anywhere in the university, that helps me to be in those shoes of the startup founders and help them really really well with sincerity and with spirituality, so that how they can, because it's all about how we add value to others, to
Mm-hmm.
humanity, and we
Mm-hmm.
are doing something amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what helps.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm also closing in on 50. When you reach that stage of life, right, it's actually much better to impart what all the experiences that you have. So, my the minute I wake up and the until the last attempt at looking at the phone or at the laptop or interacting with anybody, my sole purpose for the whole day is basically to uh, in any way possible, if there's even a small sentence that's coming out of my mouth, right,
Yes.
it should actually benefit somebody somewhere
Yes.
somehow, right, because that actually starts a chain reaction
Yes.
और एक domino effect होता है eventually कभी ना कभी तो वो कतरा कतरा करके समंदर बनता ही है, right, and
Absolutely.
it's a great way to be actually thankful for all the experiences that you've had. तो
Absolutely.
राहिल, अब आते हैं यार ये जो स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम है, यू बीन active with Park Launch as well, You've been Ali Fahad. I've also developed a good acquaintance with him. He's also been on the talks, right? Um, he's doing some amazing work. मतलब इतना ज़्यादा जो है sitting outside of Pakistan, I don't think anybody else has done so much for developing the ecosystem as Pak Launch has done for the country. So, what's your take on the ecosystem of the country, right? And how would you compare it? Obviously, you've got lots of international exposure too, right? I think you'd be in a good place spot to cover it and compare it with the region, and then, of course, with what you've seen in the valley.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. Like we all, like including yourself, Temu, you're doing really amazing. All of us, we are helping to develop our ecosystem
Yeah.
and being part of those communities. And we talked about Park Launch. We talked like their founder Ali Fahad as well. He's a very
Mhm.
close friend of mine.
Yeah.
We're working together in the core team, like a lot of things that we do.
Mhm.
So being part of multiple communities, Tamur, I think that is something that really helps.
Mhm.
So three of them I would like to point out here. One is Park Launch. In last 2 years, we have done a lot, more than $10 million funding to startups in Pakistan from Silicon Valley. Having that trend, like have we generated that excitement
Mhm.
that some of the really amazing executives from Silicon Valley boarding on a flight, getting onto Pakistan, completing a 2 week trip, like going to all the national incubation centers and then putting that tweet and social media that I have fallen in love with the beautiful people of Pakistan.
Mhm.
That's the mission that we are working on, like including yourself, you, I, all of us. We are, because with rising tides, all boats rise.
Yeah.
And as we are helping each other with that community effect, definitely we will be taken care of for no short.
Mhm.
I mean, in terms of we are following a vision and everything else is following us. We don't follow money, like in terms of once we do this with sincerity. And that's something that we did in Park Launch.
Mhm.
And another community like Open Silicon Valley, Open is the organization of Pakistani entrepreneurs with different chapters. I've
Mhm.
been part of the Open Silicon Valley since the time I've been here,
Yeah.
since last 7, 8 years.
Mhm.
And the third one, something that we mentioned earlier, which is Nust alumni in the US. I happen to be one of the co-founder.
Mhm.
With the seven of us, we got together. Right now, our alumni organization is in fifth year now. Like we transitioned leadership, and we are a part of the board now. And then
Mhm.
so across all these communities, what we are doing is that
Mhm.
we are helping other startup founders.
Mhm.
We are doing that branding of the amazing talent that we have in Pakistan.
Mhm.
So some of the and literally the good thing is that Tamur, as you mentioned, that with this virtual work, that has that is limitless. Like we can connect anywhere at any time. So I've been working with some of the startups in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, like definitely the top cities, but some of the tier two cities, like I would say Multan, Bahawalpur, Sahiwal, Peshawar,
Yeah.
there's amazing talent there.
Yeah.
And they need that guidance that Tamur provides, that Raheel, that, all these, because this would be right now, the people who are helping the startups,
Mhm.
they are like they have a limit, like there's more demand as compared to the supply we can provide. So
Yes, of
so
course.
does that make sense, like in terms of we all are helping and shaping this ecosystem, and we both, like I'm humbled and honored to be part of all this along with yourself,
Mhm.
what you are doing at Startup Talks. That's amazing.
That's the basic idea behind it as well, because
Yes.
you know there are so many universities in Pakistan, right? Every 6 months they're churning out over 25,000 graduates every 6 months, right?
Yes.
Plus job creation is not at par with the number of graduates Pakistan produces every year. The good thing is, academically, there are lots of options available here, but what are they going to do? Where are they going to go? Right?
Yes.
So obviously, then most of them turn to doing something of their own, embark on the entrepreneurship ladder. right?
Yes.
Some fail in the beginning, some succeed in the beginning, but it's a continuous learning process. And in that process, I'm actually a firm believer that these startups and small businesses, they are the biggest creators of opportunities, right?
Yes.
The biggest solvers of some very small to very big problems. But all these people that you mentioned, all these platforms that you mentioned, I'm grateful that you had some good words to say about Startup Talks too,
Yes.
right? Uh, उसके पीछे भी जो है वो स्टोरी कुछ ऐसे ही है कि अब
Awesome.
शहर में जो रह रहे हैं लोग, कराची में है, लाहौर में है, इस्लामाबाद में है, दे हैव एक्सेस टू इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर्स, दे हैव एक्सेस टू mentors, but even in those big cities, अगर 1,000 बच्चा है तो 1,000 बच्चे को इंक्यूबेशन सेंटर या मेंटोर का एक्सेस नहीं मिलता, राइट?
Exactly.
अब उसको
Yes.
सेवरल एक्सेस मल्टीप्लाई कर लें आप इनटू टीयर 2 एंड टीयर 3 सिटीज़, उन बेचारों
Yes.
के पास तो वो भी नहीं है जो यहाँ शहर में लोगों के पास है। तो वो
Right.
इसके पीछे भी, कॉन्वर्सेशन के पीछे भी द सेम टारगेट टू लेट as many people have access to it, right? And to create value and to answer all those invisible questions that people are either hesitant to put forth, or they don't know where to get access to people who to ask. So this is
Exactly.
really great. uh,
Awesome.
अच्छा राहिल, तो इतनी इंटरेक्शंस की हैं विद स्टार्टअप्स इन पाकिस्तान, राइट? एक बर्ड्स आई व्यू से अब हम हट के बात करते हैं, राइट? टेक
Yes.
माइक्रोस्कोपिक व्यू ऑफ थिंग्स।
Right.
इतने सालों में of course it's progressed quite a lot, especially during the last 2 or 3 years. There's been exponential growth there. What do you think uh, should have happened, right? What do you think should happen? मतलब क्या चीज़ें कवर और भी होनी चाहिए, राइट? और इतनी सारी जो ओवरऑल चेंजेस डायनामिक्स में, पॉलिटिकल डायनामिक्स में हो रही हैं, व्हाट शुड बी डन टू safeguard the ecosystem?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tamur. I would say that that's very interesting aspect. And like I would answer that from my coach's perspective that
Yeah, yeah,
okay, especially in coaching,
yeah.
we say okay, we don't worry about the past. We don't even forget. Like, how about saying forget? We cut the past. Past is past. It has happened. If we focus too much on the past, it can give us blame or remorse or guilt. We work on present to brighten the future. So the present, the way it is going,
Mhm,
I would say the future looks very bright in terms of the startups, the way people are working with a lot of folks from Silicon Valley
mhm,
helping Pakistani startup ecosystem. Some of the global VCs and angel investors investing in Pakistan. The future looks very bright because now that professionalism, the way the startup founders and the startup teams in Pakistan,
mhm,
they are doing that execution part with that professionalism that makes them that have that experience to these foreign investors that this is what the Pakistani talent is all about. I
mhm.
would say that future looks very bright in terms of how we can all keep doing the same and with the same enthusiasm we can take this to the next level. Absolutely.
So, uh, how is the link between the domestic ecosystem, right, and Silicon Valley? How has that evolved? Uh, क्या benefits हो रहे हैं उससे पाकिस्तान को?
The benefits are something, as you mentioned earlier as well, that a lot of startup founders from Pakistan, they're traveling and they're taking like a sabbatical and spending 3 months in Silicon Valley, and then they're going back and forth. Like yesterday, I was in touch with these startup founders who are currently in Silicon Valley,
Mhm.
and they're on this trip, and we have an upcoming conference with the Startup Grind, which is the
Yeah.
Pakistan Tech Summit on this weekend as well.
With Arzi
That is
Shahzad.
changing a lot, like in terms of that is helping our startup founders in Pakistan to understand that yes, all these facilities are available.
Mm-hmm.
If they are doing something really amazing, all the global resources are there for them. They
Mm-hmm.
can connect anytime and be in touch with Temur. They can be in touch with Raheel, ask for that guidance, work on something, because ideas are dime a dozen. It's all about the execution, it's all about the team. And can they have and work in these global teams? Absolutely. So I would say that Pakistani ecosystem is catching up, and but it looks very promising at this point in time, the way things are going very fast.
क्योंकि I was speaking with some months back with you probably know Teddy Himmler as well, right?
Yes.
So I was speaking with him. He was like, Pakistan uh, is at a stage where Indonesia was maybe 6, 7 years back, right?
Yes.
I mean, we all know पाकिस्तान में हर चीज़ लेट शुरू होती है लेकिन शुरू हो जाती है, ये अल्लाह का शुक्र
Yes.
है, राइट? तो uh, what problem areas, right, do you think startups still need to address in Pakistan? Because over here, people think that tech progression or digitization is more about getting online groceries and getting an Uber or a Careem, right?
Yes.
Whereas it's a lot more than that. So,
Yes.
from your own learnings over the years, yes, from your own experience in the valley with Tesla and all those wonderful organizations, and also the startups and the feedback that you're getting from Pakistan, what problem areas do you think still need to be addressed, which haven't been touched on?
Uh, I wouldn't say, Tamur, that not being touched upon until this point. However, like in terms of edtech area, we
Yeah.
see a lot of startups and they're doing really amazing. Like especially working on the education part for our country,
Mm-hmm.
that is so amazing.
Yeah.
Two areas that you mentioned, which is the online grocery or like on the share ride, like online ride, Uber or Careem. But
Mm.
still, like having the foundation of Careem
Yeah.
helped so many spin-off and so many other startups.
Yeah.
The people who went through their journey, then they had the courage to go through, and this is an early investments that these investors have made in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the critics might say that, okay, we will see 5 years down the line what happens to this investment. So it's an onus of responsibility on all of us, including Tamur and Raheel and all of us who are helping, that yes, we stand right there and we show with our execution that yes, we were worthy of these investments, and so that the graph keeps going up. So absolutely, I would say some areas like especially edtech, would there are a lot of startups there. We look forward to them. How do they perform? And especially this the education part, I think that would be very enriching for our ecosystem.
चलें. अच्छा, क्योंकि you've been in touch with so many, right? Obviously, you probably get questions about investments and VCs and all of that. Uh, एक यहाँ पर एक बड़ा सा एक वो फिनोमेना है कि जो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स जो पाकिस्तान में स्टार्टअप्स रेस करते हैं, दे आर either Ivy League grads or people who have actually had come out of these two ride-hailing businesses of Careem and Uber. Do you get that perception? Because I don't believe that, right? It's
Yes.
the idea on paper and the founder's grit and courage that
Yes.
actually attracts the investment. But do you get that kind of feedback? If you do, what do you have to say about that?
That's a very interesting perspective, Tamur, as you
Yeah.
touched upon.
Yeah.
So yes, some of the people think that only if a person has been to some of the amazing universities in US, UK, or the other countries, and then they return back to Pakistan, then they can raise investment.
Mm.
That's one chain of thought. The
Yeah.
other one thing that okay, besides that, if somebody has worked in US and UK in some of those countries, and then they have returned, and that then they get that investment because then I would add to that. Okay, one is like having that education abroad. Number two, having that experience abroad that is helpful.
Mhm.
Number three, even if somebody has not been to that master's program in one of the Ivy League or has not worked in some of the top dream companies or the FANG companies in the world, still they have an opportunity. But if they show that professionalism, yes, absolutely, why not? And some of them has, yes, they have got the investment
Mhm.
even if they did not have that experience or they did not have that master's program in US or some of the other abroad countries, still it shows with their professionalism, with the way they connect with investors, the way they position themselves, the way they show that execution, then absolutely, why not? So I don't think that there's a hard and fast rule that somebody has to have the check mark and then only they can get the funding. If they prove with their professionalism, the way they conduct themselves, the way they position, their pitch, and everything. Absolutely, this is possible.
Uh, I don't know why people think of it that way, right? Uh, if you go out for a walk in the street, you look around, right? In any country, doesn't have to be Pakistan or the US, in any country, there are lots of the people and businesses and shops and a lot of people doing different things to be inspired by, right?
Yes.
Startup scene is not a present day phenomena. Entrepreneurship is not a present day phenomena. People have been
Right.
starting businesses, दादा परदादा उनके दादा पता नहीं कितने दादाओं के ज़माने से लोग बिजनेसेस शुरू कर रहे हैं, राइट?
Absolutely.
और the interesting thing is that in a country, in an emerging market like Pakistan, there's no limit to growth. Actually, it's the attitude and the positivity of the mindset that actually takes you there. There are
Yes.
lots and lots of businesses जो पाकिस्तान में ऐसे बहुत सारे एग्जांपल भरे हुए होंगे, वो किसी ने बिरयानी बेचते हुए शुरू किया होगा और वो पता नहीं कितनी चीज़ों का वो बड़े बड़े बिजनेसेस वो खड़े कर चुके हैं, राइट?
Absolutely.
तो देयर आर लॉट्स ऑफ थिंग्स टू इंस्पायर टू गेट इंस्पिरेशन फ्रॉम. अच्छा, राहिल, काफ़ी सारी बातें हो गई हैं, राइट? मैं अब सवाल नहीं पूछूंगा, राइट? आई एम गोना टेक दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी and cash in on this opportunity of hosting a success coach over here on Startup Talks, right? I'm going to hand this over to you for the last few minutes, right? What message would you have for the ecosystem? What message would you have people who are looking to develop careers in all these amazing businesses that are coming up? And in your opinion, having guided a lot of people and businesses, uh, what key areas do you think should be addressed in your opinion? This is a very broad, very
Yes.
wide-angled pointers that I've put forward to you, right?
Yes.
So, but it should cover quite a few things.
Absolutely. Thank you for providing that opportunity. So let me share the screen. Like
Yeah,
the from that, like after that journey part,
yeah.
uh, these are some of the big companies, some small companies, some startups I've had an opportunity to work with and coach them and help them since last 4 years. It's fourth year full time now that I've been coaching.
Mm-hmm,
And the message that I would like to share would be in terms of the way it has been very helpful
mm-hmm,
for the businesses,
mm-hmm,
especially with the startup founder. The most important person for us in the startup is the startup founder himself or herself.
yeah.
And we work a lot in the mindset and the strategies part.
Mm-hmm,
And once we combine the mindset and strategies, that's how we get the result.
mm-hmm,
So these 7 areas that I would like to touch upon and share that with the startup with the startup talks here in adding value to these startup founders,
mm-hmm,
like working on the business plan, where the business is today to
mm-hmm,
where they want to take it,
mm-hmm,
how they are positioning their products and services,
mm-hmm,
and how they are positioning themselves as a startup founder
yeah.
and doing the marketing, sales, operation, finance, customer success. So that's how these are the foundation, the business plan and the positioning. And then it builds up on the marketing, sales, operation, finance, customer success part. Because like even while we are putting together the pitch, then the whether it is investors or other stakeholders, they ask, okay, can you share what's the traction that you have? Are you pre-revenue? Are you pre-product? Do you have an MVP? Okay, what is the success that you have achieved at this point of time? They might be starting out very early, but the investors and the stakeholders, they want to see the top tier of this model. That okay, what's the customer success that you have provided? So this is something that I would love to share, that working on this pattern really helps the startups and really get the results in terms of like working, especially in the first two, building that foundation, having a very strong business plan, having a strong positioning. Because I might be starting today as a business, as a startup, like registering my name, registering the organizing, all those things come after. They come later. The most important thing is that okay, I am a startup founder and I'm meeting with someone. What should I talk about? That is very important. And like day one, having that strong positioning, having a written script of that, having that pitch ready, it's all about preparation plus opportunity. Luck is more preparation we can make, the more opportunities come our way, and then we are lucky. Like in terms of, as Tamur you mentioned, like there, if there is a will, there is a way, either finding a way or making one. So working these two foundation part and then working across, that is something that I would love to share, that is so helpful for the startup founders, as they have shared with me, that these are the areas that they worked on, and that was the reason that they were successful.
You shared a slide there with the companies that you're associated with. Interestingly, I've been also in touch with two of them, right?
Awesome.
Scholarton and Poltas. Scholarton is doing some amazing stuff. Faisal has been in touch with me for the past couple of months now.
Awesome.
Or I'm supposed to be having a conversation with Ali Murtaza as well from Polta.
Excellent.
He was in Saudi a couple of weeks back. I don't know if he's back in town or not. उससे भी मैं चुटकी लेता हूँ उसको, उससे भी बात करते हैं। ठीक है, चलिए
Absolutely,
राहिल।
these are very good friends of mine, and
हाँ।
because they had been in Silicon Valley, going through that 3 to 6 months journey here, and
Yeah,
that is the opportunity in which we could
हाँ,
work together and coach them, help them, and definitely there's a lot of talent in the startup founders with the way things are going in the different startups
yeah.
area.
Look at Faisal. I mean, Faisal, he's also been through some interesting companies in the US.
Yes.
राइट, और वो यहाँ पर आकर के कोयटा में बैठा हुआ है और अब अपना ये चला रहा है एंड हेल्पिंग पीपल get into universities and prepare for all of those tests that I mean, honestly speaking, in Karachi I went to a really good school in Karachi. I did not know about Fulbright scholarship.
Yes.
I did my O level, I think back in 89 90 or something like that. हमें नहीं पता था कि यार ये Fulbright क्या होता है,
Exactly.
right? So it's a good and really amazing thing that these guys are doing. चले राहिल, यहाँ पर भी अजान हो रही है, right? One last question. Do you read a lot? Are you a reader? Do you like reading books?
I love reading books, and
हाँ,
recently I've been shifted to more like audiobooks,
हाँ,
like in terms of enhancing that learning part. If I'm driving anywhere, if I'm doing something,
yeah.
if I'm doing a walk, then like doing two things at a time, that is something that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so absolutely, I would say that these are all the resources that we have that have taken the learning to a next level. So if we do not find exactly an opportunity to read books, we could have an audiobook. We could have some form of learning going on while we are doing the other things, other activities.
So what's your favorite among the ones that you've read? I'll tell you mine
But
later. I've got two.
yeah, absolutely. So three authors I have delved through all of their books, which is one is Napoleon Hill, the other one is Tony Robbins, the third one Stephen Covey.
Mm-hmm.
I have not read a lot of books from the other authors, but these three I have covered all of their books.
Okay.
And I think that that helped in foundation. The number one book, Tamur, as you asked, I would recommend Think and Grow Rich,
Mm-hmm.
which is from Napoleon Hill.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that gives a very step by step journey towards success
Mm-hmm.
that anyone can apply in any area.
Mm-hmm.
Like it could be to becoming a scholar in a PhD in a particular field, could be a businessman, could be a startup founder, but that is like I would say that gives a very strong strategy that
Mm-hmm.
that helped me to work on these areas and being one of the top school and work. So definitely would recommend that to the startup founders, especially if they're embarking on this journey.
Uh, the very first book I read was more of an autobiography, I think, that my father gave me. I was doing my O levels about a person called Lee Iacocca. Right back in the 80s, he was a big name back then. But my favorites are actually one is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Being a person of
Yes.
strategy myself, right? That is my favorite. I have read it, I think, maybe 6, 7 times by now. Right,
Yes.
and been doing that for the past 10 years. जब भी मैं पढ़ता हूँ ऐसा लगता है कि कोई रिफ्रेशर कोर्स हो रहा है मेरा
Yes.
स्ट्रैटेजी के ऊपर.
Yes.
Plus, I have a habit of some. I mean, that's the kind of feedback I get कि शायद मैं कभी कभी फलसफाना सी फिलोसॉफिकल सी बातें करता हूँ तो वो ठीक है होगा लेकिन uh, the other one is the 40 rules of love, right? About Rumi and his last days, right? It's an amazing book. वो ऐसा नहीं है कि इमरान खान ने recommend की थी. It's not because of इमरान खान. मैंने उससे पहले पढ़ ली थी, right? But it's an amazing book. चलें राहिल, आई थिंक विल कॉल इट अ डे हियर. अजान ज़ोहर की अजान हो रही है यहाँ पर. इट्स टाइम फॉर नमाज एज वेल. I'm really, really, really grateful that you gave us this opportunity and let me host you here. I know पिछले 2 हफ्ते से हम कोऑर्डिनेट करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं लेकिन ऑब्वियसली रमज़ान में जो है वो हर चीज़ आगे पीछे हुई भी होती है, राइट? जितना सवाब अभी कमा लें बाकी जो है वो सब उड़ा देंगे हम लोग क्या अगले अगले 11 महीने में. ठीक है ना? चले, thank you
Absolutely.
very much, Rahil. Thank you for being here. It's a really inspirational talk from you. Um, I will share it when it goes online. Probably will be sometime during the week in a couple of days. ठीक है, Rahil?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Tamur, for having me here. And really, it was a great honor to
Mm-hmm.
be part of Startup Talks. And something that Startup Talks is doing is
Mm-hmm.
very impressive. So, literally, I would say congratulations and putting together like this series of talks in which there's a lot of value add that 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 you're providing to the startup founders. So definitely, somebody could. There's a hidden treasure here. If somebody has a commitment,
Yeah.
it's all there. Yeah,
Chale.
absolutely.
Thank you very much, Rahil.
Thank you very much.
No, in
Thank you.
fact, salute to
Absolutely.
you, you person of the armed forces.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Chale, thank you. Allah Hafiz. Best of Ramadan then.
Absolutely. Thank you. Allah
Thank you.
Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz.